Diana Reinoso from the Science for Change. This is very interesting because it's a private company based in Catalonia, Spain, who is dedicated to citizen science. Is a very, I wouldn't say unique case, but it's very interesting. So Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting us to participate in this webinar, and thank you all. Good morning, and also thank you to Joseph for his wonderful presentations, because he already mentioned a lot of the complexities and the challenges, and also the benefits that citizen science can provide to nature conservation. So my presentation, I am Diana Reinoso. I work for Science for Change. We are a small company based in Barcelona, in Catalonia. And we are specialized in citizen science projects, because we developed many different types of projects at local level, regional level, and also we participate in many European projects on that. My presentation is about what is citizen science applied to nature specifically, and what are the good practices that we can do to increase the quality of the projects. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, because this is not, okay. So I wanted to start by defining citizen science for those who are not familiar with the concept. As Joseph already mentioned, citizen science means the participation of the general public in scientific research activities. When citizenship actively contributes to science, whether through its intellectual effort or knowledge, or through its tools and resources. Citizen science is mostly based in 10 principles that were defined by the EXA, which is the European Association for Citizen Science. I will briefly mention the different principles. For example, citizen science projects actively involve citizens. The active involvement of citizens is important to consider a project as a citizen science project, and this project generates new knowledge or understanding. Citizen science projects have a genuine citizen science outcome. This is why Joseph mentioned the importance of the academia, of the researchers in that specific discipline. Both professional scientists and the citizen scientists, meaning the public, the citizens, must benefit from taking part of the project. Citizen scientists also may participate in one or multiple stages of the scientific process. I will talk about a little more later on. Citizen science also had to receive feedback, return of the results from the project. Citizen science has to be considered as another kind of classical research, let's say. It has limitations and biases as all the different disciplines or classical disciplines that should be considered and controlled. Citizen science also should generate data and metadata that can be that had to be public and have to be published in an open access format. Citizen science has to be acknowledged in the project results and publications. This is something really important. Citizen science programs have to be evaluated for many different aspects, for example, scientific output, data quality, the participant experience, and the wider societal and policy impact. And 10, the last one, is that leaders of citizen science projects, a citizen science project can be led by different kind of organizations, can be led by the academia, can be led by the citizens themselves, but the leaders of the citizen science project have to take into consideration legal and ethical issues because we are working with people. As these 10 principles are somehow abstract, we did here in Catalonia, we did an exercise of concretization of this specific issues. We developed a specific project with the members of the Commission for the Promotion of Citizen Science and Nature here in Catalonia. And we defined with this group the minimum requirements for a citizen science project to be considered citizen science. And we defined these different elements. A citizen science project should should provide an active a citizen science project had to have a will to improve existing scientific knowledge, also had to have a will to use a scientific methodology. This is all related to what Joseph was saying before. Fourth, it also had to have a willing to generate a benefit both to the participants and the professional scientists. It should do, it has to have the will to do scientific publication or to have research results, and to provide the participants have to have information from the very beginning of the project of all the process of the project, and also the return of the results. So we have to provide them with feedback over the time. The project should generate data, open data, whenever it is possible. The citizen has to be recognized in the results, meaning publication, project reports, etc. The project should try to ensure the data quality, and also they have to have a will to evaluate the experience of the participants. So because we don't have to take into account just the scientific aspect of citizen science, but also the citizen, the social aspect of citizen science. The project should have a will also to generate social impact through the project and to implement an ethical code. What is citizen science important in nature conservation? I think Joseph clearly explained that, and it has to be said that citizen science, specifically applied in nature, is the most advanced field in citizen science. It has the higher impact and also the longest story, because in a sense, citizen science started in this kind of projects about conservation, biodiversity, etc. I will just talk about briefly about the scientific, about the benefits of citizen science. Because, for example, it allows us an alignment between science and the social agenda. It allows us also to generate new data sets that can be complementary to the traditional data sets. It has a great potential to report better public policies, as also Joseph mentioned. It promotes awareness and behavior changes, because when we are talking about conservation, we are not just talking about generating or setting up good public policies, but also promoting awareness within the population, within the citizens. It has a great educational potential, and it somehow increases the knowledge on science and the knowledge on nature. It has a great communication potential and contributes to fight against misinformation or disinformation. So as I was saying, in citizen science, we have to take into account two different aspects. We have to take into account along the whole project, which is one is the scientific aspect and the other one is the social and educational aspect. As Joseph mentioned, one of the most important benefits of citizen science is that it is a valid data generator, because it allows us to generate more data than the traditional disciplines or the traditional methodologies, with more granularity, what in the end allows us to identify or to monitor trends. This data generated by citizens can complement existing data and can also even generate new data sets of issues, populations, species that are not being monitored by the traditional way. And also this data allows us to compare the new data with existing data sets. For example, the type of the data generated by citizens allows us to these three different elements: to complement existing sets, to contrast existing sets, and also to update existing sets, including when we talk about existing sets, including official data sets, which is the most interesting thing. One of the most important things of the data generated by citizens is that if we compare it with the traditional way of doing science, in which a research project, for example, monitor on a moment or punctual period, for example, the population of one species in a certain period and in a certain place, citizen science allows us to monitor the evolution over time, because we can engage citizens in providing data over the time. So this allows us to not to have a fixed picture, but also to monitor the development of the biodiversity, for example. And this is one of the most powerful things of citizen science, that allows us to monitor what is happening. And it has a lot of benefits for public policies, because it allows us in the end to co-design policies based on evidence and on scientific evidence, and that are aligned with the needs of the society. This is, for example, this is meaning how citizen science can provide data and provide a relevant knowledge for all the policy-making cycle. And I wanted to focus my presentation in this paper, which were published in the Nature magazine. And this paper is Citizen Science and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And this paper was talking about how traditional sources of data are not enough to inform and to monitor the SDGs. And it shows also how nowadays citizen science citizen generating data is already having an impact in this monitoring of the different SDGs, and how citizen science could be strengthened or consolidated to better do this work that is to help us to monitor the SDGs along the way. I wanted to show you this specific example from Catalonia, because here in Catalonia, I think maybe in other countries and other regions of Europe, the situation is similar. Here in Catalonia, the data generated by citizens are already being integrated in the reports, official reports and official databases of biodiversity. This is one of the reports about the natural heritage and biodiversity strategy of Catalonia. And it says clearly that most of this, the data that have been used to monitor all the species and the biodiversity are coming nowadays from the citizens. As this quote said, most of the data come from citizen science projects with the participation of coordinated networks of hundreds of mainly volunteer naturalists linked to key institutions in each biological group. Another example of the support from the institutions to that discipline is the Department of Climate Action, Food and Rural Agenda here in Catalonia. They in 2020, if I'm not wrong, they set up this commission for the promotion of citizen science and nature, in which 14 members organizations. One of them is CRAF, that is here, and I think is going to present their work. They also set up this virtual display where we can find all the different citizen science projects that are working in nature here in Catalonia. And they also hired us, Science for Change, to do a diagnosis of the sector, just to be able to evaluate the degree of consolidation of these projects, and also to evaluate how these projects could really integrate their work and their data in the official databases, and somehow to help to the natural conservation. And we did this diagnosis the past year, and also a manual for best practices to guarantee a better consolidation of the projects, a better data quality, etc. And they also have set up the Observatory of Natural Heritage and Biodiversity of Catalonia. So as you can see, there is been a lot of support from the institutional side, because they understand that citizen science is providing raw data, robust data, and very important data to natural conservation. In addition to the scientific aspect, we have to take into account the social and education. An important benefit of citizen science. It is important first of all, from the social and the educational point of view, because the participation of the public in citizen science projects, an active participation, increases awareness and encourages the co-responsibility in matters that affect to all of us. No? In that sense, citizen science, to participate in a citizen science project as a citizen, can promote behavioral changes and action changes. It also increases scientific education, which I think we are all agreed that it's important nowadays. Mostly when we work with schools, with education institutions, for example, schools, museums, libraries, etc. Not just thinking about the young people, but all the different intergenerational ages. It increases science education. So I go to the last sentence, because it allows students or the public to discover, for example, at first hand, a wide range of research modalities. And in a sense, to participate in citizen science projects increases scientific literacy, which is really important to, as Joseph mentioned, to put a bridge in this gap between science and the population, science and social agendas and languages. So somehow it increases scientific literacies and help us to create also citizenships with knowledge to make actions, and also to have an informed opinion. It also promotes, from the educational point of view, it also promotes STEAM vocations and interdisciplinary work, because citizen science most of the times actively engages students in research, helping to encourage STEAM, calling, especially if scientists act as reference, breaking gender stereotypes, for example. Another benefit is that it promotes a thoughtful and responsible youngster, because it promotes the critical thinking, the creative thinking, and the curious thinking. But I think that it is important to say that citizen science, it has a lot of benefits, but it is not easy to implement. Why I am saying so? Because as you have seen in this short presentation, we have to take into account and do a lot of efforts to somehow combine the efforts that we do in the scientific aspect and the efforts that we do in the social and the educational aspects. This is a slide where I would like to explain the difference between the classic citizen science and what we call extreme citizen science. It does not mean that one is worse than the other, just they are like two different ways of doing citizen science. The classic one, as you can see in this slide, the participants or the population, the citizens, are invited to participate mostly in 1, 2, or 3 phases of the research of a research project, mainly the data collection part. And also in a classic citizen science, and this is something that we are trying to overcome, the people that work in extreme citizen science, is that the classic citizen science usually just engage people with a high level of socio-educational level. So what we are trying to do, the people that work with extreme citizen science, is to integrate the citizens in other stages of the research process, and also to engage not just citizens that has a specific or a high level of education, but all different profile of citizens, even underrepresented groups of population. This is a brief introduction to the Manual of Best Practices for Citizen Science and Nature. It is going to be published by the Catalan government, if I'm not wrong, next week or in 2 weeks. So you will find it, you will have it published for you if you want to read it and to check it. It will be just in Catalan. I'm sorry, I suppose most of you are Spanish or Catalan, but most of you don't. But well, I think it's a very interesting opportunity, because it's a very interesting document, because it somehow it describes a little bit all the different aspects of a citizen science project that we have to take into account, and in a very clear and simple way explain tips to overcome certain challenges that arise during a citizen science project. For example, I don't know if yes, I have time. I will not explain all the different sub aspects of this manual, but you will find a chapter devoted to participation, how to design an involvement, participation strategy, how to consolidate the participation over time, etc. Also a chapter about social and educational aspects, how to increase the citizenship knowledge and in science and environment. How can we evaluate, for example, the change in the attitudes of participants to the environment, how to integrate a gender perspective, how to integrate underrepresented groups, etc. You will also find a chapter on scientific and open data aspects, which are really a huge challenge for the citizen science community. You will find, for example, how to use a core scientific methodology, how to ensure the representativity of the collected data, how to ensure quality, etc. And also you will find a chapter devoted to ethical and legal aspects. As I mentioned, this is a very important part of our work, not just because we are working with citizens, but also because we are working in the environment. So we have to take into account many ethical issues. And I know that today you will see many beautiful examples of citizen science projects, but if you are interested in know more and to have more information about different projects, because maybe you are thinking to participate in a citizen science project, you have here the EU Citizen Science platform website, where you will find a research engine with 240 projects, and you can search the project that more suits your objectives or your needs. And also, I leave you here QR if you are interested in know more about Science for Change, or you are interested in designing or setting up a new citizen science project. You have here my email, or you can also write through our form, and we will be happy to share our experience with you and to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. Great talk and fantastic. You could keep the time. It's not always easy. So we have two questions together with some requests about your talk, your presentation. So the first one is from Aiga. She asked if can you tell us more about private landowners engagement within the citizen science program you are conducting, the benefits for them, if there is any protocol for visiting private properties. This is the question.
I am not an expert specifically in private landowners. I think the following presentation of Matthias is going to go deeper in this collaboration between landowners and citizen science projects, because I mean, my experience is more in other fields, meaning, for example, waste management. We work a lot with specifically with local public administrations, academia, and also associations related to waste management. And we work also a lot with in the health sector. So I am not experienced specifically in that field. I'm sorry.
No problem, Diana. And Alina asked if you could give some examples of feedback to the participants.
Okay, so I think the most important thing in the feedback of the participants is that we have to try to make it easy to understand the results of the project, because somehow when we are part of the academia, we are researchers, we are used to use a kind of documents and reports that are not really fancy, understandable, etc. So I think it's very important to dedicate efforts to do this return of the results, but in a fancy way, in a clear way. I give you some examples. There are, for example, applications that show the graphics directly when you upload your data. For example, it shows directly a visualization of the graphics, a fancy visualization of the graphics. You can also, this is something that I like to do, you can also at the end of the project, for example, or at certain point of the project, to do specific presentations of results devoted to the participants. It can be online, it can be in presence. You can send a report, but I mean, not a report of over 40 pages, but a report in 1, 2, 3 pages with images, with, yes, I think it's important to dedicate efforts to do that.
Thank you very much, Diana, again, for the talk. It has been a very good, that kind of summary of so many concepts. So yeah, thank you.